Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queer Stories on the Swan, a podcast where two gay men chat and discuss all things queer in the Perth LGBTQIA+ community. I'm your host, Chris. And Christo is not joining us this week, for he is away, but that's all right. You still got me, and we have our guest today. His name is Chris Bars, so there's still two Chris's here for the podcast. And we'll be discussing his journey, discovering his asexuality and aromanticism, just being an ace person in general. We'll get into it. And his journey about how he navigated through that. All right, so sit back and enjoy the show. So we've got our guest here on the line now, Chris Guest. We're going to call you Chris Guest because, you know, you've got Chris Host over here and Chris Guest. So how are you, Chris Guest?
Yeah, I'm pretty well. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Thank you for joining me on the podcast. I know it was a bit of a late notice, but really appreciate you. And we've not been blind to the support you've been giving us online through Instagram and Facebook. Really, really appreciate it. And now you're here.
Oh,
that's your reward. You get to tell your story. So,
oh my God. See, you too can appear on Queer Stories on the Swan. Look at me going for a plug. Look at that.
I'm going to need to make you an ad. I'm going to make you one of the spokesmen for Queer Stories on the Swan, one of our happy customers.
Yeah, I've been listening since the first episode, so look at me go.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What am I, a long time
listener.
Well, thank you very much. So, Chris, do you want to take the stage and start from the beginning?
The beginning? Jeez. I don't know how far back we need to go, but
okay, we don't have to go through birth.
Yeah. My name's Chris. I use he, him pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
I identify as a somewhat complicated, sometimes I think of it as a queer mess, but I identify as an aromantic asexual with I would say a weird, but with a slight bi-ish twist.
Right. I've never heard that before. So
yeah,
how does that work exactly?
How does that work? So, odd. Okay, so are we assuming that people know what aromanticism and asexuality are?
Just in case,
do I need to define it?
Look, just in case we've got people who are listening in who have never heard those terms before.
Yep. Which would be quite a lot of people. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first part being aromantic, essentially, I'll sort of stick to the sort of the textbooky type definition is people who experience little to no romantic attraction. I try and think about like what exactly is romantic attraction, and my brain cannot for the life of me think of what is considered romantic. And certainly when I meet people, I don't tend to get sort of those sort of coupley type reactions and sort of feelings. But we can get into that further later down the track. And there's probably a few people that will know about asexuality and quite a few people that don't. So asexuality is essentially experiencing very little to no sexual attraction. So it's completely separate from low libido or celibacy or anything like that. Like it's not an actual like choice. You don't choose to not be sexually attracted. I was thinking about it earlier, probably the easiest way to explain it to people, because for me, it all makes sense. Like I've had quite a bit of time to sort of process it, and it all makes sense and be normal to me. But to other people, it's like new and revelationary and very difficult to get their head around. So one of my really good friends in Sydney, who's also part of the Oz Aces admin team, she will usually say something along the lines of, most people will have a sex or a gender that they're attracted to, and the opposite sex or gender they're not really interested in. For asexuals, generally speaking, neither sex or gender really interests you. So you don't tend to have any sort of sexual attraction to people based on their sex or gender. With that said, asexuality is quite a large spectrum, and you can have people that are, say, demisexual, and grey sexual, which are all part of the asexual spectrum.
Mhm.
So those are people that would tend to, in the case of demisexuals, you would need to form an emotional bond or emotional closeness with someone, get to know them on a really fine, intimate, emotional level before you experience sexual attraction. And grey sexual people. So I'm starting to get into aromanticism. Grey sexual people are people that sometimes they feel sexual attraction, but it's not a constant thing. It's not an always thing. So I guess from my experiences working in predominantly male workplaces, sexual attraction sort of just happens when you see someone and you're like, oh, hello. I'd certainly love to mush my nether regions into your nether regions, or I'd like to do things with you that are beyond hanging out and eating cake or having a dinner or something along those lines. So for me personally, and sort of this is a sort of a slightly complicated thing. So traditionally, personally, I find women a little bit more attractive than men. But in terms of attraction, it's hard. Like I can appreciate aesthetic attraction
Mhm.
with both sexes. Like I can appreciate that a guy is a very attractive guy, or a girl is very attractive, but I don't tend to have those feelings where I would like to do naked stuff with them.
Right. Okay.
Um, so like I said, that's a completely separate thing. So a lot of people say, oh, you're choosing to be asexual. Well, it's like, well, no, you're thinking of celibacy.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got a colleague at work at the moment who's dating a religious girl, and she's all about the no sex before marriage
Mhm.
life, and he's struggling a little bit with all the urges that go on, if you will. So obviously, yeah, that's sexual attraction. So um, sometimes we get all sorts of weird things. So you know, this could be a TMI warning there, but as a male, sometimes your body will still react in male-like ways when things happen. So it's
Yep.
not like things don't work or they stop working or anything like that. Like things still work, but there isn't necessarily a physical traditional sort of sexual. Oh god, this is turned into a train wreck. There isn't really a sexual reason as to what that's happening.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. No. No. I'm not. Not. I'm just processing and understand. I'm also extremely
Yeah, there's a
slow.
lot. Yeah.
So it takes a lot for me to process things. But okay. Okay, right. Okay, but how long? So just to sort of get back on track.
Yep.
Not saying that you didn't. It was great
That's all right.
explanation. I started explaining things, so you probably could have explained it better than I ever could. So let's get back from the beginning. When did you realize that you were queer, or suspected that you weren't straight, or something was amiss?
Yeah, I mean that's also quite a complicated thing. So a lot of this is going to be my personal experiences, and I will sort of interject with a few different experiences that I'll say common experiences
Mhm.
for people that are I'll say aspec, which is asexual or aromantic spectrum.
Right.
So for me personally, I'm not gonna get into the sort of the bi-ish side because that's sort of its own different thing.
Yep.
So I remember I'm gonna start and start high school where so I remember where quite a few of the boys, this sort of early high school, were starting to get a little bit more interested in girls in sort of more of a wanting to be friends sort of way. And I just used to always think that they were just weak
Right.
and just sort of like, like, oh, can't you like control your urges sort of thing. And I didn't really think anything of it. This is probably when I was like 13 or 14 or so. Um, then sort of like as I went through high school, I remember a few of the guys being, which girls do you like? And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, oh, which girls do you have a crush on? And I'm like, I don't have a crush on any of these girls. And they're like, why not? And you're like, oh, just guess they're not my type. And I guess being queer or sort of, I'll say, bi spectrum wasn't really on the radar, so to speak, certainly in early to mid high school. I remember certainly in late high school, must have been year 11 or 12 or so, one of my friends is like, Chris, you don't seem to be interested in porn like the rest of us. And I'm like, oh yeah, I just don't really, it's not really for me, sort of thing. I just guess they're not my type.
Porn's not for me either, to be honest. I don't watch porn.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. I don't get off and watching people do stuff like that. That being said,
that's fair enough.
If I see muscle men, then hello. But yeah, no, I get it. I don't watch porn.
Yeah. See, this is going to complicate things. Actually, I don't. I personally don't like frequently watch porn. It's not for me. But I mean, sometimes it sounds a little bit weird, but it can be slightly entertaining. And for me personally, it doesn't really make too much difference if it's gay porn or straight porn. It's just like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's like, and it's weird because it's like it's more sort of like an intellectual curiosity, and sort of going, oh yeah, that's how that works. But I'm not interested in doing that. I'm not really sort of interested in that. I don't know if that's going to make it in the cut.
That's all right. That's all right.
Where was I? Oh yeah. So I remember one of my friends in high school sent me this link to some goth chicks, because apparently I used to like goth chicks, and so there was some goth porn, and I'm like, this is so stupid. This is the dumbest thing. Like, I'm like, these people aren't real. Like, I don't know these people, so I don't feel like I can be attracted to them. I feel like I need to know them to feel attracted. So I guess in some ways, I thought initially maybe I was in what I now know demisexual, but that was certainly not the case. So yeah, I used to just sort of, I guess, after high school, I wasn't really interested in girls and doing on any of the clubbing and finding girls and doing dating sites and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, right.
So I started to just sort of identify as what I called non-sexual. And I'm like, I'm just not into guys or girls. I remember sort of getting to a point of where I sort of thought and felt that an orientation / my orientation was more about how far I could go sexually. Because if I wanted to have a relationship and do all that sort of stuff, it was all going to come down to sex. And I sort of felt like, I feel like I could have heterosexual sex more than gay sex. So I have a higher potential, higher likelihood of being straight.
Yeah.
So I must be straight.
I was going to say being normal. In quotation marks.
Yep,
yeah.
Quotation marks.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I was, I say, aesthetically attracted to some men. But I felt like, oh, look, when it comes to the act, I don't think I could do it. Like, I don't think it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I just thought, oh, I must be straight. So then sort of got a little bit later down the track. So that was sort of heading toward, I'll probably say 1920 sort of ballpark, and started, look, maybe I should try dating. This is so stupid. Like, maybe I can find friends. Maybe I can make friends of the opposite sex on a dating site, and maybe if I really, really like them, maybe the feelings will come, and maybe whatever. And that all sort of didn't make sense at all. So I remember going through, and even now, if I had a profile on a dating site, which I don't currently, I'd be like, this person sounds interesting, but I don't know what this person's like, so I don't know if I'm going to like them. So like physical attraction for me doesn't really fall into it. I'm more interested in the person and their stories and all that sort of stuff, and to see if we vibe. The only thing being is I'm also really not interested in that all the time. So but most of the time for me, I guess, with my aromantic side, is most of the time, like 99% of the time, I don't want to be in a relationship, and it's not really something that interests me.
Yep.
But I can see how people may want to be in a relationship. I mean, I've been in relationships before, but it's not something that I'm terribly experienced in, and it's not something that I sort of really, really want that much, I guess.
To be fair, they're hard, so I can understand why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
God.
So yeah, I remember one day on a dating site, I started chatting to this girl, and she was really interested in me. And I thought, oh, if she's interested in me, then maybe I'll be interested in her.
Right.
Which didn't make any sense at all, because she was extremely annoying. And this particular one, she would, I think I had this idea of, if I give her my number, then she'll hear me and she'll be able to talk to me, and she'll realize that I'm really not that interesting, and that I'm actually really boring, and it'll make her not want to talk to me.
Oh.
Well, that completely backfired. Because she kept on calling me. She kept on wanting to talk to me. All sorts of stupid hours. Like, she was in Melbourne at the time, and obviously being in Perth, 3 hours behind. So she'd be ringing all sorts of stupid times, and
like 3 o'clock in the morning here. Hey, it's 6 o'clock. Good morning. You're like,
yeah,
no,
like,
3.
hi. It's like, yeah, please go away. And then I was sort of a bit young, dumb, and naive, and I was thinking, oh, look, maybe I can just give her a hint that I'm just not really interested. Like, I didn't mind chatting to her, like, she was cool, but yeah, just she wasn't that interesting, I guess you could say. And then the stupid thing is later in the conversations, they started to get a little bit more sexual. And I was not really wanting that. And also, I guess, living with my dad at the time, I didn't really want to be caught having any phone calls with some weird shit going on. So I didn't want to have to explain any of that shit.
Right.
Hey everyone, this is Chloe from episode 3, and you're listening to Queer Stories on the Swan. Always remember to stay fabulous.
So yeah, I remember one day, like, the conversations were getting sort of more frequent, more sort of sexual, and I was just trying to like, no, sort of, not be receptive to it, but sort of not be a rude prick. And so I remember one day she just straight out comes out to me. This is, I don't know if it's completely relevant, but she was studying psychology at the time. So she goes to me, "Are you asexual? Because I think you're asexual." And I had no idea what the fuck that was at the time. Sorry, language warning. I had no idea what that was at the time. So I was like, does that mean, do I masturbate with myself? Is that? And I wasn't really sure what that meant.
I was going to say, that's the case. I am asexual as fuck.
So yeah, I was I didn't really sort of know what that was, and I remember the next day, and I remember this so clearly. I was going for a bit of a bushwalk and thinking, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, we go through life, and like, you sort of you're presented really with the option of, you're either gay, bi, or straight. And it's like, I've got this girl that pretty much wants to jump my bones, and she's talked all this dirty shit with me, and I'm not interested. And I'm like, why? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, sort of, you go through life, and you're sort of never presented, really, this is, at the time, you're never presented with asexuality as being an option. Like there's only 3 options that you can be, and it's like when you don't fit in any of those boxes, you're like, you know,
What are you
like
supposed to do?
no one taught me about asexuality. No one, you know, this wasn't ever discussed in school, like, you know. So I remember thinking that during this bushwalk, and I go home and I'm like, why don't we just Google this? Why don't we just literally, so I sat down, I remember it so well. I sat down and I literally Googled asexuality, and this is going back to like 2009, and up pops AVEN, which is the Asexuality Visibility and Education Network, which was the main big ACE forum. Sorry. For those that don't know, asexual people will often abbreviate themselves to ACEs. So you'll tend to hear people mention the ACEs, and even within queer spaces, so that usually mean asexuals. And aromantics are called arrows. So that's a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Bookkeeping.
Yeah.
So yeah, I Googled up AVEN and had a bit of a look at the forum, and I remember reading the definition. You know, this was a little bit less inclusive at the time. It was something like asexuals are people who experience no sexual attraction, and I'm like, is that me?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, it sounds like me. I think it's me. So I hopped on the forum and I started reading everyone's different stories, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like me. Yep, that sounds like me. And this person, that also sounds like me. And that other person sounds like me. And I'm like, oh shit, I think I'm asexual. Yeah, no,
I'm on a
makes sense.
website.
I'm on a website, and there's other people just like me. So yeah, I sort of figured that out later in the journey, I guess.
Yep.
So it would have been probably, let's say, it was about mid-20s at the time. So that was a bit of a revelation, because it was like, you know, I just thought maybe I'm the only one out there that's like this, that feels this way about people.
Right.
With that said, I do sort of experience attraction in different ways to people. So a lot of people will be familiar, I guess, with physical attraction and sexual attraction. But there are other forms of attraction, like platonic attraction, aesthetic attraction, and one that's wonderfully complicated called altruist attraction, which can be a little bit difficult for people to sort of understand.
What is that?
So I'm going to give my best definition of it, because I'm really horrible at defining every single thing and every single micro label under the sun. There's so many micro labels and stuff. So altruist attraction is essentially very similar to platonic attraction. It sort of, for me, blurs the line between what you would normally want in a platonic relationship. So essentially, for me personally, experiencing it really blurs a line between what people would consider a romantic relationship and what is a traditional sort of I want to say physical, but I don't mean like sexual relationship, but like a physical relationship with the hugging and the hand holding and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's difficult because I haven't experienced the full range of emotions. So
okay.
It's to me it is sort of that sort of cross. It's like almost like a hybrid between aesthetic attraction. Sorry, not aesthetic. A hybrid between
platonic and what was the other one?
Platonic and like a physical attraction.
Okay. Right. Okay. So there's clearly a lot of labels that aren't often discussed. You know, aromantic, asexual.
Yep.
And then there's even smaller labels under that. And
there's so many micro labels. Sorry.
Yeah. Which for me is not great. Not because I don't like representation. It's just because I have a very small brain. So my capacity to remember things is awful. So knowing there's all these different labels is like, how do I keep up with this? I'm going to have to make a list. In fact, maybe there's a queer dictionary somewhere that I can order.
There's a queer wiki.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so
Yep.
much. You are just bringing in the facts today. I really appreciate
Yep.
this. Thank you.
That's okay.
Education, that's what we hear about.
Education, yeah, I've got I'll say plenty of education, but I don't know. I don't know where the fuck I'm going with that.
That's all right. That's all right.
So yeah, I remember when I first signed up with Avon, and I was thinking about how much do I mention this, but I'll just say a local. Sorry, when I first signed up with Avon, there was a call out for a local radio station to interview someone that was asexual, and I remember volunteering for that one.
Yep.
Back in 2009. So I have done an interview way back in the earlier days of Ace Rep. So I've done an interview with a radio station. I don't want to mention it because I have listened to that interview like a few years ago, and it's so cringy. It's really hard to listen to yourself, and especially when you're going like more than 10 years into the past and you're like, I am not even that person anymore.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
yes.
I'm so different. So
I
remember that was that. We sort of, I'll say we. So we used to have meetups, like a local meetup group on Avon with a few of the Perth Aces.
Great.
One of the members at the time who I later ended up dating. Yes, that can happen. No arrow ace dating, but anyway, that's a completely different story.
Oh my goodness.
We can get into that, but not too much information.
Sure.
We can. So she actually started a group on Facebook, which is still up today with that I admin. To try and organize meetups and activities and stuff like that, so aces can get together and sort of hang out and talk and do stuff, which is all great in theory, but I sort of joke and say it's really difficult to have a social group when everyone's an introvert.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bit difficult. No, and I'm not saying everyone's an introvert. No, I'm just sort of being a little bit tongue in cheek. So we have I'll say we. It's not my group. I admin it, but
you're representing the Aces today, so you can say
I'm
we.
certainly. I'm represent. I'll rep all of. We have a group on Facebook called Ace Perth People. So
lovely.
If you're Ace spec, feel free to check it out, and I'll stalk your profile and see if you
Well, we'll definitely have to share this episode to that group, and I'll leave that to you. So
no worries. I'll stalk all the profiles, but not really. I mean, I would prefer it if people are a spec that are joining, or they're like really, really, think they might be. Then that's great. In the past we've had things like reporters and stuff come sniffing around, and we're like, that the group doesn't exist for that. So there was that. I'm somewhat involved, but not that far involved in Australian Asexuals and moderating an Oz Aces Facebook group. And within that group, we have representatives from most of the states in Australia, and we sort of share Ace news, events and shit that's happening in Australia, and we sort of use that to promote Aussie Ace Week.
Right.
Now I don't really do a huge amount. I'm going to be honest about that. Like I have bandwidth issues, like I think everyone does. I don't have the most amount of time, etc. So I always wish I could do more, but I sort of do what and when I can. So
and that's all that matters. As long as you're doing what you can and you're doing what you want to do, and if it's contributing, then that's all that matters.
So when we have Aussie Ace Week, we have different panels talking about all sorts of different things. So last year I took the leap of faith and sort of I was a bit worried that, oh my god, that people are going to find out that I'm ace, because I wasn't really that openly out about it, that's another story. So I sort of, in the past sort of, sort of didn't want to be that public about it. But last year I'm like, you know what, I don't care. Let's just do it. So yeah, I've been in a couple panels talking about different things. Yeah, certainly last year I did an interview with Abby Chatfield, which I don't know if people know from The Bachelor, but she has her own podcast and stuff.
Yeah, definitely heard of her name.
That was filming for a sizzle reel, which I can't really say much about. I didn't get a call back for that, but I believe there's an episode going ahead with her and some Australian aces, so that's really cool. I don't know where that's coming out. I don't know anything about that, so I've had a pretty gangbusters last 12 months, I suppose. So
brilliant.
The Abby Chatfield thing last year, Aussie Ace Week, and what else? I did Pride. So I was actually driving the Ace float at Pride last year, which was really cool. So that was so much fun.
Nice.
Seeing everyone's support for us, which was really cool. I had an interview earlier this year with I don't know if we can say Queer Perth, but I'll just say Queer Perth for Aromantic Spectrum Awareness Week. So I had a little interview for Arrow Spec Awareness Week, which was really cool. So
you can totally plug that in. That's fine.
And then it's like I saw the other day, I'm actually wearing an Arrow shirt at the moment, which is in the interview that I sort of gave for Queer Perth. I actually bought the shirt from a place called Rainbow Roo, which is based maybe Melbourne or Sydney. It's one of those. I think it's Victoria. So they actually reposted my interview, and it was a caption like something along the lines of "Great to see our shirts actually out there in the community" or something like that. And I'm like, damn straight.
Oh, that's great.
That's so cool. It got reblogged or reposted like yesterday, I think it was, and I took a screenshot, sent it to some of my friends. So quite a few of the Oz Ace admin team have been working with Rainbow Roo to get a few shirts up on the store, especially for upcoming International Asexuality Day, IAD. And there's quite a few things going on.
Yep. And now you're here on this podcast.
And I'm here on this podcast. Yeah, this is the most important thing that I might ever do in my life.
I'm sure you have plenty of important things to do in the future. Let's not sell ourselves too short here.
No, got to reach for the stars, man.
No, absolutely, 100% agree. Your family were all accepting of you being ace?
So growing up, being ace was not an option. Like no one, it didn't. I want to say it didn't exist. It did exist. It's just that it was never represented.
Yeah.
And even today, we really struggle to get representation in any media. Things have improved so much when we got BoJack Horseman and we had Todd come out as Ace, which was really awesome. And so now it's like we get these younger kids coming through and they're like, in the early 20s and stuff like that. And they're like, I'm Ace. It's like, holy shit, man. I wish I knew that when I was that age and stuff. But sort of, oh, that's okay. I'll just grow up until I'm like 25 and just think I'm broken. But that's fine. That's fine.
I'm 26 and I think I'm broken. It's not.
I think everyone's broken, man.
A broken human being.
So I remember one day my dad asking me, why aren't you interested in women, whatever. And I was just like, oh, look, it's sort of cliche, right? So in A circles, we sort of get it from a lot of people that, oh, you just, when it comes to sexual attraction, you just haven't met the right person yet.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you just haven't had sex with me yet. That sort of things. Like, that's not how attraction works. But anyway, I remember, in the past, I've sort of said it to deflect. Things like just for, like, my personal business is not your business, and if I want to tell you, I'll tell you.
Why can't people understand that?
Yeah, it's it's weird, I guess. Like people sort of feel like when you have a queer identity that you somehow owe them a coming out.
Yeah, like you're a
And it's
case
like,
study now, and we need
yeah,
answers. No, you don't. We're
yeah,
not.
I
We're
need
not
to
science
ask you a whole
experiments.
bunch of I need to ask you a whole bunch of ridiculously invasive questions that are really, really personal, and I want you to answer them. And you're going to represent a whole entire community, that's extremely diverse. It's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is with asexuality is the estimates are that they believe, say 1 to 3% of the population may be asexual.
Mm.
And when you given that the global population, I think, is like 79 billion, that would mean globally there's around 79 million aces.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And it's like, that's a lot. It's just like, statistically, that's not that much, but that's like a whole entire country. So yeah, like representation is a huge thing. Like when you don't have any representation, that's a lot of people that are feeling that they're sort of misguided and broken and stuff like that. So I need to get back onto the topic about my family.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's right. It's a podcast. That's what we do.
That totally needed a side rant. So yeah, I remember one day my dad going to me, he goes, "What's going on?" Not necessarily what's going on. He's like, you're not interested in girls. And I'm like, no, girls are all right, but I mean, there's better things to do. Like, it's sort of like there's this meme / trope in the ace community that I would say it's about cake, where you would rather be doing anything sexually related. Like, why would you want to do that when you could be eating cake? Like, oh, I'd rather eat cake, sort of thing. So I remember him going to me, why aren't you interested in women? I was like, oh, maybe I just haven't met the right person. Yeah, just deflect.
Yeah.
And then he said the most, one of the most ignorant things that I've come across, and I've never forgotten it. And he said to me, he goes, "Oh, I know you're not gay." And I'm like, "Oh, how do you know that?" I'm like, sometimes, men can be attractive, but whatever. He goes, "Oh, I know you're not." He goes, "I know you're not gay." I'm like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Because no one on my side of the family is gay." And I'm like, that's not how that works.
Yeah,
Dude.
as far as you
and
know.
It's like, yeah, as far as you know. And it's like, well, he's like, "Oh, no one on my side of the family is gay, so I know you're not gay." It's like, that's definitely not how that works. And it's like, sometimes I come across the most homophobic shit.
Yeah.
Like I've heard people at my work say so many things which sort of made me afraid to come out as ace. Because when you're something, I guess you can be gay or you can be straight, and even bi people suffer with bi erasure as it is. So from straight people, they're like, "Oh, you're either gay or you're straight," and then I'll interject with, "Well, you could be bi." They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, yeah, I guess people could be bi," and then I'm like, then I'll interject. I go, "Could be neither," and it's like it's just not a concept. Like it's just not a concept in people's minds. Like you're either this one or this one. It's like, have you seen the Kinsey scale? Do you know how the Kinsey scale works? But
it's like, can you stop making the world boring? Because some people
stop making
are a
the
little
world
bit different.
heteronormative.
Yeah. Sometimes people are just a little bit different, and if you actually took the time to ask and try and understand, maybe it wouldn't be so freaking alien. But no, people have got to simplify things, because otherwise, complex is scary. I don't like it. So I know what you mean.
Yeah, and traditionally, like people that come out as ace always get stupidly invasive questions like, "Oh, do you masturbate?" And it's like, "Oh, can you experience an erection?" And all this other shit. It's like, of course you can. Like, what the and so why the fuck are you asking this? Like, would you ask like a gay person that? Like, it's just like, you wouldn't ask someone that. That's just, they
probably would.
It's just, yeah. It's just like, I don't necessarily want to think about anyone dating. It's like, I don't want to think about it. It's like, It's sort of the old cliche, sort of everyone does it, but nobody, sort of talks about it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's not a good take.
No, it's just why do people just cannot leave people alone? Can we just mind our own business? Is it really that hard to mind our own business? I don't know. Are you still close with your family now? Has it become a little bit easier
Okay,
through the
yeah.
years?
So both my parents are now deceased.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay. And this sounds really horrible, but I actually haven't officially come out to my brother, who I just happen to live with, even though I literally have an ace flag and an arrow flag up in my living room.
Well, that's not
they're
horrible.
just they're just there. So
yeah, you come out when you're ready, though. Like
yeah, and
that's up to you.
Like, yeah, I don't feel like I necessarily owe him a coming out, and it's sort of like, all these people know this about me, but he doesn't know that about me, and I live with him and all that sort of stuff. But it's like I remember one day see, I always sort of cringe a little bit at myself, because there's this sort of cliche that how do you know someone's a vegan? Because sooner or later they'll tell you they're a vegan, sort of thing. So when you're living in, I'll just say a share house, and I live with my brother, I'll just consider it a share house. When you have other people living with you and they want to maybe cook you dinner and stuff like that, it's sort of important to disclose, oh, guess what? I'm now vegan and I don't eat meat anymore and animal products. Right. And I remember him one day saying to me, he probably wouldn't remember, and it's probably a little bit bitchy of me to hold a grudge about him, but about it. But he said to me, he goes, "Why would I care?" He's like, "Why would I care that you're a vegetarian?" And I'm like, okay, then. Did
he mean it as though that's not going to matter to me, or is that like why are you going to tell me I don't care? You're going to eat it. Is that what? Like, how did he mean it? Do you know?
It sort of felt like why are you even telling me this? This doesn't need to be on my radar, and I don't really need to know. I'm like, okay. So I've sort of always felt that my aceness was like that to him. Like,
might be your veganism. Okay.
Yeah, I don't need to disclose that to him because why does he care? It doesn't affect him. Whatever. So yeah, I remember this is a little bit crazy now. So I've been in the ACE community now for, I think it's around 14 years, just over 14 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
That it feels like a long time sometimes. So it was only just late last year that I caught up with my sister, and we were in the car and we were having a chat, and she was talking about a yoga class that she runs, and she was talking about a couple of her students. I know she has suspected that there's a queerness about me, because I remember one day she asked me, it was the most random thing, and she was like, and I haven't forgot this, and she's like, "Chris, who do you think's attractive on TV?" And I'm like, what? She goes, who do you like on TV? Like, on the TV, who do you think's attractive? And I'm like, and I was like, I'm like, who would people think that's attractive? And I'm like, the fact that I had to think about it was just, in hindsight, amusing. I was like, Jennifer Garner. And she goes, "Oh yeah, Jennifer Garner. Yeah, I can see that." And I'm like, yes, I have straight passed. I have straight passed. Congratulations.
Sit back and enjoy the coffee.
That's it. Let's live on this straight passing privilege.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went out for dinner last year, and she was on about this yoga class and a couple of her students, and she was saying how one of her students, I think, is polyamorous. I think, from memory. And I was like, yeah, personally, I don't understand why people get so upset about polyamory. Like, what's to hate about it? Like, for me personally, I think it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It's not a concept to me that does not remotely not work.
Yeah.
I remember I was dating a girl and she's like, I think it's best we go our separate ways, sort of thing. I don't really think I have feelings for you and all that other stuff, and I'm starting to feel attracted to other people. And I'm like, oh, do you want to date other people too? And they're like, no, I can only date one person, and I don't want to date you. And I'm like, oh,
that's
okay,
incredibly
because
blunt.
my brain just went straight to, oh, polyamory makes sense to me.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, like it's like it just does not. And for people that are I'll say immaturnormative, it makes like it's just a complete head fuck. They're like, oh, I couldn't date more than one person. I couldn't be with more than one person.
If you're liking the show so far, feel free to follow us on our socials at Queer Stories on the Swan at our Facebook and Instagram. Also, give us a review on whatever platform you get your podcasts, as we really appreciate the feedback. Yeah.
But then I guess in some ways I'm looking at it from a different lens.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think I could, mainly just because I just want to have the focus on the one person. But I completely understand how people would, how that's just normal for them. You know, because we've had guests who have had polyamorous. Like our first guest has a fiance and a boyfriend at the same time. To so many people, that's so confusing. Like, what? How does that work? But then when you actually listen and understand, it's just another thing that some people just have and some people don't. So really,
I just sort of think that the thing that puts me off polyamory is how much effort it must be.
Oh yeah,
like it's like, how am I going to fit in work and video games and bushwalking and photography and partner one and partner two? It's like,
oh my goodness, like
I get home from work and I'm tired and I just want to go to sleep.
Oh, I know.
Like, I don't have time for dates.
No. my dates are like, hey, let's go see a movie and then dinner and then sleep.
Yeah, go to sleep.
That's my dates.
So yeah, back to this sister conundrum. See, I've just hyped it up. This story has just gone for so long now, and it's so lackluster.
No, you're doing fantastically.
So yeah, my sister said, "Oh, I'm dating she's not dating. Sorry, my sister said, "Oh, I got this person in my class, and she's I don't remember. It doesn't matter if it was the guy or the girl that was poly or whatever shit." And she goes, "Yeah, and they've got an asexual partner." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And she goes, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Do you know their name?" And I thought, oh, maybe I know them from Ace Birth People on Facebook. So I was thinking, oh, you know, whatever. And she goes, "No, I don't know their name." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, whatever. And I'm like, so we're driving along, and I'm like, "Oh, you mentioned that you had a student's partner, whatever, that was ace." And I'm like, "So are you familiar with asexuality?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, I know a little bit of it, whatever." And I'm like, because I've sort of like kicked the ball around in my head. I'm like, you know, should I ever come out to her or whatever? And I'm like, well, now's the time. Like now is the time. Like, I think I'd already done Aussie Ace Week at that point in time, and I'm like, if it's going to come out, now's probably the time.
Yeah.
So I just literally said to her, I go, "Oh yeah, because I'm ace. Like, I'm asexual." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I thought as much." And then that's how the whole conversation
That's
went.
it, yeah.
That was it.
It's so funny how we just think, oh, this coming out, it's gonna be so dramatic, it's gonna be so much fight, so much like you're not my brother and all that, and then it's like, oh yeah, okay. I'm like,
have a billion questions.
Where is the drama?
Oh, I didn't want drama. I hate drama. So yeah, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to do Ace 101. This is a thing where it's like, you know, every time, you know, you sort of meet new people, and there's an ace, you know, aces mentioned. You have to do Ace 101. This is what it is. This is what it's not. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
That's and you didn't have to do it, so it was just.
I didn't have to do it, so yeah, I dodged that bullet.
So have you spoken about it since to your sister? or just not?
I don't think so.
Right.
Like I literally have ace flags in my house.
Yeah.
So she's seen them.
She-
No, she hasn't, because I actually posted the interview that I did with Queer Perth to my
Right.
Facebook, and
Right.
she liked it, and I think I posted something on my Insta, and she also liked it and stuff. So she's like, yeah, this is a thing that's Chris, and Chris is LGBTQIA plus, so
Yep.
whatever. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, I haven't certainly been treated any differently about it, so that's pretty cool.
And I'm glad that that's good for you. And you don't have to explain anything to anyone that you don't want to. If they're inquisitive, they should be respectful about it and have an actual conversation. But that's totally up to you.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I've had a few times, I guess, over the years where I've had people at work be like, I've had one where one of my bosses said to me, he goes, Chris, what's your type? I haven't figured out what your type is. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, think heterosexual, think heterosexual, think heterosexual. I
Big
like tits and
boobs.
ass. I like tits and ass. And they're like, oh yeah. And they're like, but do you like brunettes or blondes or whatever? And I'm like, oh shit.
Oh my God, I hate that
I go,
term.
oh, I like brunettes. And they're like, oh yeah. And I go, I like brunettes with glasses. And I'm like, okay, I think I've deflected the question. Straight pass.
Look,
Hashtag straight pass.
Just make your sex doll and then go away. Don't ask me
It's
what's your
just like,
type. Oh
like,
my God.
yeah. Yeah, I've been asked a couple times. Like I had another, like a colleague that I used to work with, and it was the last day she was working with me, and she used to, like, the whole time we were working, she had a thing for older guys. She was like early 20s, and I think I was like late 20s or something along those lines. But anyway, and she would always be not necessarily flirting, but trying to use her womanly charms, like battering her eyelids and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I can see right through it.
Yeah.
And then I remember she said to me one day, this is so horrible, and I probably crushed the poor girl's spirits. But anyway, she goes to me, she goes, why don't any of my charms work on you? And then I'm like, I am immune to your womanly charms. She goes, but why is that? And I'm like, oh no, do I know? She goes, but why is that? And I'm like, I find you physically repulsive. I go,
Oh my God.
I do not find you attractive, and your battering of your eyelids and such. And I go, do not make me want to bend to your wants. And she's like, oh, okay, geez, wow, whatever.
Oh my God, the savagery.
And yes, I'm a bit brutal at work sometimes, and I can be such a bitch. And
I live for that.
the last day, sorry, get back to the last day at work. She was like, Chris, I actually don't know what your orientation is. And I'm like, oh yeah,
Good.
I don't know. She goes, I don't know if you like guys or girls. And I'm like, okay.
All right. So we're at that point, Chris, now where we do the last thing where I asked my guests advice that they want to give to people who might be living in a similar situation. For those who are ace, and being asked if they met. Can't believe that. Anything you want to share with some potential youngins or people who are older who haven't come out as ace yet?
Yeah. Geez, let me think. Yeah, just I guess some advice I can give for people that are ace or questioning is, it's one thing that I say and a lot of people say is sexual attraction and action are completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be asexual and you can be in a relationship, for example, and still engage in sex. It's just that you don't feel that sexual attraction. Your body can be ready for intimacy, and that's perfectly normal. But it's your desire that you feel about engaging that. So for me personally, in that sort of situation, wow, this is really getting off topic. So yeah, for me personally, in that situation, there is a bit of a disconnect. So it sort of feels like my body's like, yes, and my brain's like, weak flesh creature, you want to give in to your desires, and I'm like, but I don't have desires.
I don't have
And it's
any.
like, body says yes, brain says no, and it's like, let's just go along with this, you know. And then you're like, this is boring as fuck. Sorry, this is boring as fuck. That's when you know you're ace. No, you should know your ace before then. So yeah, it's fine. Like, you know, there are aces that do have sex, and you know, you can be anywhere, let's say, on the spectrum, I guess. But like I said, it is an entire spectrum, and action doesn't equal attraction. And so you'll know within yourself how comfortable you feel with your attraction and whether or not you identify as ace. And it's fine. Like, it is completely valid and normal. And we're so lucky these days through a lot of campaigning, a lot of activism and stuff like that, where we are getting more and more accepted. You know, it brings a huge smile to my face anytime I see an A included at the end of LGBTQIA plus, or it's just like a little nod that it's like, oh cool, ace and arrow people count, and you know, we're valid.
That's why I made it a point to always say that we talk to the Perth LGBTQIA plus community.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, like you know, growing up, you know, going through life, you know, being ace was never an option. It was never you could be this. And so, you know, you're not broken. There is other people out there like you, and you can find a network. And so I think one of the greatest things that I've really enjoyed with my ace journey is finding community and making some of the best friends that I've ever had. So I'm so lucky. I've got, you know, friends from all around the world that are ace, from different ace communities, and it's fun bagging out the straights to other queer people.
Oh, I know what you mean.
we live in such a heteronormative world where it's just like, oh, it's just sort of good to sort of get one up on the straights, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. 100% it does. But no, all good. So thank you so much, Chris, for joining us for today's episode. Well, tonight, it's actually nighttime as we're recording this. But yeah, really, really appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show.
No worries. Thank you so much. It's been awesome. So I've really enjoyed it, and I really look forward to continuing to listen to the podcast. It's been really good. I know there's quite a few people that were interested with me coming onto the podcast. So
lovely.
Hopefully I've done it justice. Hopefully there's not too much of a train wreck of editing coming up. So
but train wrecks are fun, so you know.
Oh well, it's all fun and games until, I don't know. And it's all fun and games until a transcontinental railway line cuts supply chains into Perth. But anyway.
But that's really good stuff. All right, thanks, Chris. We're gonna end this episode right now. And where can we find you on socials? Can we find?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you can check me out. I have an Insta, which is Chris B Life and Stuff. It makes it sound like, what was it, HR Puff and Stuff? But anyway, it's not HR Puff and Stuff. It's Chris B Life and Stuff. Yeah, that's probably the best place to find me. So you can be a creepy weirdo and stalk me on there. And if you have any ace questions and stuff like that, then you can possibly check out Ace Perth People, and like I said, I admin on there, and sort of I'm a little bit apprehensive to say what my my name is on Facebook. It's fine, but I just don't want all the creepy weirdos. But I mean, there's probably not that many creepy weirdos. So
good. You don't have to do that. That's fine. You plugged your Instagram, so you're all good.
Yeah, Instagram. So if you want to contact me about Ace stuff through Instagram, freaking go for it. Yeah. Like I said, or you can contact Ace Perth People, and
Excellent.
There's Oz Aces. Sorry. Let me find the group. I need to just make sure that I actually credit it correctly. I'm sure it's called Australian aces. Let me just dig it up. I don't want to. Okay, so you can also find me on Australian Aces, Asexuals from the Land of Oz. And there's also our charitable organisation called Australian Asexuals. I look forward to sort of seeing you guys or hearing from you. Check it out, especially coming up to International Asexuality Day, and hopefully Aussie Ace Week later this year. So we're happy to have some interesting topics. I've certainly got a few kicking around in my head. So yeah, we've got a few interesting concepts. So I have a few interesting concepts kicking around in my head, like ace men things. So we tend to have a bit of a bias in the ace community where it tends to be mostly females. So a lot of the sort of cis het male sort of stuff sort of gets a bit forgotten about. So hopefully we'll have a few topics. I mean, it's so far out to sort of think, but yeah, I'm hoping to bring a couple topics that are relevant to cis het aces. So yeah.
No, brilliant stuff.
Male aces.
All right, thank you, Chris. Cool.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you for listening to Queer Stories on the Swan. You can leave a review for us wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us on our socials on Facebook and Instagram.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Christo.
And
Stay fabulous.